Yeah, I think you should. Yeah. Say, hold on 1 second. Let's have a little pause and then go. All right. Excuse me. That left foot is causing the squeak again.
Please Don't Take Me When You Go, a tune I used to play long ago on the Barbary Coast. The Barbary Coast is gone, but it didn't take me with it. Let me tell you a little something about the people and the music back then.
Good. Now, Sid, now see, that sounded like you were reading it.
Yeah.
So you have the idea now. Just go ahead and do it in your own way. Now say it again. In your own way.
Please Don't Take Me When You Go, a tune I used to play long ago on the Barbary Coast.
Now,
Coast is gone, but it didn't take me with it.
Right. Now this time, Sid, I take the paper away so you can't read it. And I'd like you to do it again, and don't think about words on the paper. See, want your natural style like you've been giving it to me.
That piece I just played, Take Me When You Go, is a number I used to play on the Barbary Coast. The Barbary Coast is gone, but one good thing, it didn't take me with it. Now I'll give you an idea of what the Barbary Coast is, and the people, and the characters, and the music in there.
Good. Now, Sid, I'm going to ask you to do it once again because it really loosened up.
Without any piano.
All right, and this time with no piano, whatever. Okay? Good.
The piece I just played was Please Take Me When You Go, is a number I used to play on the Barbary Coast.
You want to do it again?
When
Did you say you wanted to do it again?
Yeah.
I thought you go ahead.
That number I just played is Please Take Me When You Go, is a number that I used to play on the Barbary Coast. One thing, the Barbary Coast is gone, but it didn't take me with it. And now I'll give you a little idea of what went on in the Barbary Coast, and the boundaries, and the characters, and the vicinity, and the music.
Now just resume.
And
Your own way.
Barbary Coast was a famous place founded by Purcells, Lou Purcell and Sam King, and ex-Pullman porters. The Barbary Coast was first on Broadway, moved later to Pacific Street, and is bounded on north by Broadway, on east by Sansom, west by DuPont, which is now Grant Avenue, and Clay Street on south. Purcell's one of the famous Negro well, you'd call them nightclubs today, what is dance halls in them days. Cafes was located at 520 Pacific Street. One of the first buildings put up after the fire. And you'd possibly like to know what went on there.
Sure. And Sid, tell us about the people who founded Purcell's.
Sam King and Lou Purcell, ex-railroad porters, see. And they started up on Broadway, and then they finally moved down to 520 Pacific Street. And then they split up, and Sam King went down to 468 Pacific Street, and that went on for years. And here's something peculiar about the place. There was, because there was other places outside of Purcell's in the Barbary Coast. There's the Hippodrome and the Thalia and the Bella Union and Louis Gomez and Charlie Costa and Griffin's Place, Jim Griffin, the old famous referee, the Parenti brothers.
Which was the place, Sid, where Little Egypt did that famous...
The Bella Union.
Yeah, and later on she went on to the Chicago World's Fair.
That's right.
What year was that, Sid?
1908, not mistaken. And then you take the music in some of the places. Started off with piano and drums in most places, and then it worked up to 4 pieces, and then 6 pieces. And the Thalia, which is one of the biggest places there, had 18 pieces at one time. Because the sweetest music, I think, was down at a little joint in the second block down with Charlie Costa's, and the harp and the violin. It was both boys from Portugal, but one was Portuguese and the other one was Armenian, the violin player. And what was so wonderful about their music was the harp player was wonderful at improvisation in them days. He didn't just play strictly chords. He played a lot of obligatos in his music. And the violin player, I don't know where he learned to play at, but he really knew how to play because he had wonderful tone and fine technique. And over at Gomez place, they had the piano and drums and cornet, and the cornet player was a brother, one of the boys in my band. And they used to say that when it was quiet, you could hear him blowing up to Kearney Street, the cornet. There was nothing, we used to call it the cornet band. Because then get back to the personnel of some of the places around in the Barbary Coast, like Purcell's. We had waiters, bartenders, and band, and girls that dance on percentage. These girls dance on percentage. They got 10 cents of the 20 cents is collected. And then when the night's over, they cashed in those checks. And then the entertainment take on like team songs and quadrilles. Quadrilles is very interesting because they're a little bit different than the quadrilles that you have what they used to dance other places. They would have a quadrille music, and it'd be a few bars of fast music, and then they'd collect all the dances together. And then after they'd collect them together, why, they'd dance. Then they'd, in the intermission, they'd call for the drinks. And it was quite interesting the way the drinks was called out. the floor man would call the drinks to the bartender, and the bartender had the glasses all on the bottom bar, and as he called beer, whiskey, wine, he put them all up, filled them up, and then he'd say they was all made. And after it was all made, why, he'd blow the whistle, and that was the end of the dance, and he'd pass out the drinks.
I bet they really crowded the dances in, too, didn't they?
Between 26 and 30 dances an hour, nothing to have tape all over your fingers, especially a piano player. And don't get me wrong now with the Barbary Coast, we had some of the best people in town that frequent the place, that wanted to come out and see the sights, because there was the characters and the hang-arounds too. But then we had the Chinatown guides that used to bring all the tourists to the Barbary Coast, and similar to your gray lines of today.
Were there any famous guides?
I really didn't know the guide's name, with the exception of one gray-haired fellow who used to make a business, because they got a little fee from the place by bringing the place. They'd bring them to the Hippodrome, they'd bring them to the Purcells, and they'd take them to the Thalia, and sometimes they'd go into Midway, but as a general rule, they just have made about the three most prominent places.
Sid, tell us just what exactly went on in these places. Tell us about the type of action that they gave the customers there. Tell us about the girls and the gambling and the drinking and dancing and so on.
The girls, you come in and the girls all stood up in front by the petition. As you come in the door, on your left, coming in the building, was the bar, and then there was a petition. And that petition was open, but the front door was swinging door, see? And as you went in, you selected your girl and danced, see? And after you danced, then they took these orders. While you're dancing, this floor manager would go up, and the girl would ask the fellow while she's dancing, what do you want to drink? And he'd say whiskey, wine, beer, or cigar. And they'd call this out, and then he'd blow the whistle. The minute he blew the whistle, he had to stop the music right now, wherever it was, see? Then after, he'd say, all right, play a waltz. See? Well, fine. And then...
They didn't waste any time at all.
No, not when it was, when business was good, see? Because when it was slow, we'd slow up, see? And...
How about the gambling?
Then, they gambled all over, see? Mostly... dice. That was the big thing in them days. Because the Chinese lottery, old Fong, the Chinaman, he used to come around and write the Chinese lottery tickets.
They have roulette or poker?
No, they played poker in some of the pool halls. But they didn't go so much for the poker right around the Barbary Coast that I know of. They mostly craps, see? Up at the Dixie Hotel, down at the Squeeze Inn, that was the main thing, craps on the billiard table. I don't believe they ever played half a dozen games of billiards on it without, because them characters stayed up all night, and then naturally they didn't get up till late in the day, and there wasn't much billiard playing going on. There was generally always a canvas cover over it, see? And then blackjack was another game, see? That went on in all those places.
Would you hold it 1 second, Hal? Stop it right there. It's on. We repeat the opening.
Well, that number I just played for you, Please Take Me When You Go, that's one of the famous tunes we played over in the Barbary Coast. And
It's gone.
The coast is gone. But one good thing, it didn't take me with it. And I'd like to give you an idea of what the Barbary Coast was, the people, the characters, the music, the gambling, and everything else that went along with it to make up the old famous Barbary Coast of bygone days.
Would you say of the bygone days of San Francisco?
The bygone days of San Francisco. Good old Frisco.